Hello. I'm here with the beautiful Ray Mardia, and we are having a conversation about what to do if your confidence has been knocked. And we all get our confidence knocked at some point. We all get shaky in our confidence and our belief in ourselves and our trust in ourselves. And we've just been chatting about some of the conversations that we've been having recently. And we just wanted to share what's come up and what to do if you're feeling a little bit off alignment and not feeling your full confident 100% self. Hey, Ray.
Hello. So great to be here with you again, Kat. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Me too. You just have so much wisdom around this area. And I was already making notes when we started chatting of Ray's wisdom coming through. And we really want to make these relevant to issues that people are facing right now and searching. So if you feel that something has maybe disappointed you lately, or you've had some kind of conflict, or maybe you've had a conversation that's just kind of rocked your world a little bit and you're not sure how to recover, you're feeling in that wobbly space, we just want to share some experiences from our own world and just invite the conversation. So Ray, have you had this happen recently to you personally or more people in your world?
Absolutely. I feel like this is such a human conversation, right? I feel like we're describing the human journey that's been going on for now hundreds of thousands of years, right? How many of us have goals and dreams in our mind, and we set out on that path and we experience a disappointment or we experience a setback or a failure. So that human journey of rebuilding our sense of self, is so essential for our personal growth and for that sort of really deep experience of life. So, of course, in my own life, in my client's life, I feel like that's a theme that we keep coming back to, because it is something so universal.
Yeah, it really is. We all experience it. And I think if we can talk about it and talk about the realness and the rawness and the vulnerability that we can feel when we feel knocked, when we feel triggered. You mentioned sense of self. Do you have an example of where you feel like you've maybe lost your sense of self and what you did about it?
Oh, absolutely. I think, like, again, if we pull the thread, it always goes back to our childhood, right? For me, I think growing up, a lot of my sense of self came from being an achiever, being a carer. So it's like I sort of place certain labels on myself, that were tied to certain outcomes, and certain results that I was able to create for other people, and certain achievements that I could reach by myself, right? So a certain mark would define my sense of self, a certain outcome in a case as a lawyer would define it. And even in personal relationships, whether someone would take my advice, right, would make me feel like I was more myself or less myself. So that is something that's really curious to look at, like, find the labels, the monikers, the names that you give yourself, and how it ties to your identity, and how you then react to those when you do have a moment that doesn't quite go as you planned.
Right. Yes. I love how we were talking before about how we are meaning making machines. And so X happens and we make it mean Y. And, sometimes we don't expect a trigger to happen and it happens and we react. And then maybe we feel a sense of regret or disappointment. We've said something that we're embarrassed about, and and then we sit in that shame or we sit in that guilt or whatever comes up for us there, and then we can make that mean something about ourselves rather than kind of isolating the incident and saying that was just a situation that happened. What do I want to do now moving
Yeah.
forward? As humans, we naturally go, oh, I know what that feels like. That's happened before. And therefore, this is going to be the result, rather than saying, okay, today's a new day. I only have now. I don't have to replay the past.
Yeah.
And you mentioned some really good wisdom around, if we just keep replaying the past, we're just emphasizing the childhood patterns, right?
Yeah, that's beautifully said, which is, where in time are you, right? It's so fascinating because sometimes we say that people trigger us. And while that's partly true, what's also true is that um people are saying words, people did something or didn't do something, it's not like they themselves triggered us fully, you know? It's almost like they may have said some words, but what those words does is that they interact with a story or a belief that we've either felt before, a feeling we've had before, or a hurt we've experienced before. And so it's like that triggers this feeling, right? And so it's only if you feel like that is true, or it reminds you of something that you felt was true in the past, you'll see that your thoughts will go to the past, your body will go to the past, you'll feel what you felt in the past, you know? But if you can be in this present moment and say, that person said some words, like, you know, maybe I didn't like it, but I have a lot of choice here about whether I then get triggered about what it means about me and whether this moment is exactly like what happened when I was a kid. Maybe it doesn't, right? So making that moment so much more expansive and just pausing, giving it that breath will allow you to not just react and go immediately get triggered and go to the past and create a story and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Oh, so good. There's so many ways my brain is going right now. Something that I was having a conversation with recently with a lady was this whole concept of I can't help it. And I find that people often say things like that. I just can't help it. It's just me. And they believe that that's really true. And it's almost like it makes us tunnel vision where we delete all other information because that must be true. But if it, you know, when you ask questions, this is something I love about coaching. When you ask yourself the question, what if that's not true? It's almost like it can smash that paradigm and say, it doesn't have to be that we're giving our power away to that person. Like, he made me do it. She made me say that. He made me feel that. Is actually saying that we have no power. And that I find quite dangerous because it means that we're literally at the command of everyone else and we're pulled in everybody else's opinions. And I think this whole concept of I heard the other day it was said, you can choose to ignore the voice but receive the message.
Yes.
And I love that because it's like, what's here for me? Like, what's the few questions that we could ask ourselves in those situations where we feel like our confidence is not? Like, what's here for me? If growth is one of your values, which I'm assuming it is because you're watching something like this, growth is probably a high value. Then what if there's some growth here for me? And what if the way it was said was actually really disrespectful or really mean? But what if there's a message here for me? And I can say that's actually not true. I choose to ignore it. I choose to reject that. But also, what if there's something here for me? What's good about this? So that's one of the questions I like asking. What's good about this?
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And you know, as you were talking, it's very astute. It reminded me of that Viktor Frankl quote, you know, where he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power, I think he says, to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. And I feel like that space for us sometimes is almost non-existent, or it's just almost reactive. But in that space, you can actually discern, right? Like, which is, did they said that, was that actually true? Am I that? They were unhappy. Were they unhappy with me? Or am I unhappy with myself? You know, like in that space, you can actually engage in some of the questions that you're asking, which can be really helpful then to not go down that rabbit hole immediately. Because if you take that space, you can then actually take yourself into a beautiful response where you don't have to spend that energy and that bandwidth then revisiting the past.
Right. Because it's often the playing it over, right, that sucks our energy.
Yeah.
And the way we chose to react in the moment is often it's just the wound reacting. But then after that initial thing, which maybe we need to apologize for, maybe we need to forgive ourselves for, but after that we can choose what am I going to do going forward.
Yeah. Beautiful. And listen, like I just want to make it clear, like I'm not saying I condone behavior. Obviously, if people are making you feel upset, that's that's not in and of itself okay.
Right.
What I mean is, rather than immediately making it be about you, or something defective about you, or something doubtful about you, in
Mm,
that pause, you can be discerning. We can all be discerning, right? What did
yeah.
they say? What did they mean? What did I mean? What am I sad about? What do I want, right?
Mm,
Use that space to actually investigate and examine what the truth of the situation is,
mm.
to then, yeah, figure out whether you want to apologize, you want to let that relationship go, you want to put a boundary in place, whatever it is that's actually necessary.
Yeah, that's such good wisdom. And you've listed out a few questions here that I think are really powerful. And as coaches, like obviously we ask our clients a lot of questions. So I thought maybe it would be helpful here for the people watching that have had their confidence knocked a little bit by maybe a circumstance or situation out of your control, or something that was in your control. Either way, it's happened.
Yeah.
Maybe some questions that will help people move forward. I've written a few down.
Yeah,
You want
please.
to
I'd
share a
love
few?
to hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then I'd love to hear yours, because I'm always after powerful reframing questions. So I mentioned what's here for me, what's good about this. I find that helps take me into gratitude, and takes me into curiosity
Yeah.
about, okay, is there something here for me to learn and grow from? Feedback can sometimes be really tough to
Yeah.
receive,
Yeah.
because we were all taught at school, pass and fail,
Yeah.
good or bad. We were taught these things rather than learning, and particularly when it comes to entrepreneurship, we have to fail a lot. We have to take risks. So really inviting that feedback in, that can sometimes feel a bit stingy, but also be really good for our higher self. The other questions I like to ask is, and I ask my clients this a lot, is what do you want to believe? Like,
Yeah.
actually, what do you want to, like, let's list out all the things you're believing right now, the meanings that you're giving this situation.
Yeah.
What means that maybe I'm not cut out for business.
Mm.
Maybe I suck at this, or I'm not good at this. And so, we list it out, we go there, we're
Yeah.
real, and then we move into the reframing. What do I actually want to believe? What do
Yeah.
I want to choose right
Mm.
now?
Yeah.
And if I am choosing to keep believing that belief, am I happy with that reason? Am I happy with the reason why I'm going to keep choosing? Like, if you say, yeah, I'm really happy with the fact that I just am not meant to be an entrepreneur, and I'm going to go back to my 9 to 5. Like, are you
Mm.
truly happy with that decision? And if so, cool, let's explore that. But if it's a fear response, and I need to jump out because this is just feels too overwhelming for me,
Mm.
overwhelm is a feeling, and feelings are driven by our thoughts, conscious or unconscious.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we feel like we're victims of our feelings, but actually it's our thoughts driving them. And when people say to me, but I'm not thinking anything, I'm just feeling that.
Yeah.
This is when it's an unconscious thought that's kind of playing out underneath. There's a reason why you're feeling overwhelmed. And so what you mentioned before, Ray, what do I want? What do I want right now? And that's a very present and future question.
Yeah.
But you may choose to draw from the past, right? Like,
Yeah.
based on this past, I can make a really good decision today for my
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, that's not only like going to lead to a much more authentic response, right? If you reflect on your feelings, if you allow your feelings, it's often the first step really to moving forward, because if you don't understand the cause or the why, it may lead you in a different direction altogether. So like doing that self-examination and that self-inquiry is very, very important.
Mm.
And this will also lead to you figuring out a solution that is reflective of the truth, right? If you actually create a solution based on the narrative that you have, when you're afraid, or this version of yourself when you were a child, it may not actually lead to what you want for yourself right now. So it may feel true, but if you don't actually take the time to investigate who you are today, what you want today, it's not going to create the life that you actually set out to create in this present moment, right? So sometimes it can be really overwhelming because in the moment we're triggered, if someone's sort of, say, given us negative feedback, or if we've felt let down by someone, especially that we love and trust in business and in our lives, it's hard not to take it personally and not to create a story that how could I not see this coming? Or how could they, out of all people, think this about me, right? So that's why it's really important not to go and do a leapfrog to go to from step 1 to step 10. Like, they don't care about me, they don't love me, they don't trust me, and that's why this is happening. To actually stay with the facts, which is this is what they said. I don't know what it means. It could mean a number of different things. It seems like this is what they said, but is that really true? Do I want this to be true? So like you said, examining it will help you really keep that energy contained, and then it will really help you create a solution that aligns with who you want to be now and moving forward.
So beautifully said, Ray. And I think, like, when you talk about that reaction, it's often coming from I call it the lower part of yourself, you know, the part of yourself that's responsible, the part of your brain that's responsible for survival and safety sees this person as a threat. So we just kind of reject that person because it's like, oh, I want to keep safe. But that higher part of ourselves, you know, the prefrontal cortex, that thinks logically and has reason, can actually say, okay, there could be 100 million reasons why that person said that have nothing to do with me. But we can create a lot of drama if we stay in that survival instinct part of our brain, because it's territorial and it's all about survival, right? So I think it's really choosing not to see people as the enemy. I think most people deep down, they want the best for the world, you know, and to see them as almost attacking you because they said something that maybe because they're going through something, our survival part of our brain can create a lot of drama around that. And so it's just kind of quieting it down, and just, you mentioned before, making decisions from like that greater truth rather than a place of pain. Do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you know, I want to say for some people, their nervous system works in different ways. Say like someone who's an overthinker, it might actually be that their mind, or the part of them that they attribute as rational, can really be buried in the thoughts, right? And so for them, that they might really benefit from like a grounding exercise, which is about tuning into the body or tuning into their hearts. And so it also depends on some people, and like some may be like absolutely flooded with emotion, and they might be so sort of unable to move beyond how they're feeling. And then in that case, the rational part of their being can also help to complement, right? That sort of feedback that they get. So like people are different. And so it may be that for like one listener, the feedback from one part of their being may be very strong. So want to encourage everyone to figure out what's true for them, and sort of what they need more of to have that sense of balance as they make decisions. So that's something that I find important, because sometimes I'll be working with clients who are overthinkers, and they'll try to think themselves into a better solution. And then there will be some who are others. It's like, yeah, I'm going with my gut, and my gut is very afraid. It's like, okay, well, what is the other part of you
Right,
say? Like,
yes, yeah.
And so it's to have a process that's integrated. So you are listening to your intuition, your emotions, your reason, and then coming up with something that hopefully reflects what you want now.
Yeah, I really love that distinction, because if you think about heart, head, heart, gut, they're not separate, like where they're meant to work together, they're meant to align together, and it's often when they're out that we have conflict and we have symptomology, right? So when we can get them aligned, because some people say, oh, just trust your heart, and I'm like, I don't want to always trust my heart, because like what you said before about it feels true, I can emotionally feel this way, it doesn't mean it's the truth for me, because you've got a logical brain, you've got an intuition, we've got them all for a reason. So just having that check-in. And I think sometimes conversation is the most important thing to have, because we can get especially if we are overthinking and we have a lot of racing thoughts, it's hard to differentiate, like my gut's telling me this, but sometimes the gut is trying to keep us safe, right? And it can actually lock us into making our world really small. I know you're heading off, so I just want to start tying it up, and maybe if we could leave the viewers with a few questions to ask themselves. If you're going through a situation like this where you're feeling knocked, you're feeling rocked, I'll just share one that just popped into my mind is, I often used to say, what's wrong with me? Like it was a big part of my dialogue. Like I'd do something silly and it was my go-to. You know how we just have that story we keep telling ourselves, what's wrong with me? Which is not a creative question. It doesn't invite solutions, because your brain will just go to all the evidence. So I just catch myself now. I still sometimes it'll come in, but I'll just reframe it to what's really going on for me. So that's the question I now ask. What's really going on for you, Kat? And maybe it's self-coaching, maybe it's doing it through a coach, and really sharing what's really going on for me rather than what's wrong with me. It's a disempowering question. Do you have an example, right?
That's beautiful. I often just see people as mirrors, right? So it's almost like if you look in the mirror and you don't like something about yourself, ideally you're not sort of like getting annoyed at the mirror, right? You the first place to look is like, oh, what's happening here, or like, oh, okay, like so this notion of like saying what about their words is bringing up something that I felt or believed about myself, right? So don't immediately just blame them. Like you were saying, discerning the greater truth, and then actually asking, like, what's good about this? What's really the truth about who I am and who they are. And what can I draw? Like, I feel like timeline can be really helpful here as well. What can I draw from the past about who they've been, who I've been, to inform what this moment really means, right? Because if you can draw on past successes, past moments of trust, past moments of confidence, that history can also lend some weight to how you assess a situation, right? And then that can also help you learn and then help you take those sort of goals and expectations for yourself and from them moving forward, right? And of course, like getting a lot of support and encouragement during that time is also really helpful. So you're not just sort of stuck in that inner monologue. So if it is clarifying that point of view with someone else, with a mentor, or if it is clarifying that problem with friends or your family, I feel like that dialogue can also really help.
That's so powerful. I love that. Thank you for sharing. I'm really going to mull on everything you've said. I was just thinking, people are often the biggest area where this shows up, where we get our confidence knocked. But it can also happen with tasks and things and, technology or skills that we haven't developed yet. And so I just want to leave you with a couple of other thoughts. If you haven't mastered something yet, the word yet is so powerful. I just haven't mastered that yet. I work with a lot of women who feel like they're getting left behind when it comes to social media and technology. And so, all of us have to learn technology. So just saying I haven't mastered it yet, or I'm in the process of developing that skill, and just knowing that it is just a skill and all of us can learn skills and everything is learnable. Hopefully some of those reframe.
I just wanted to say, like, that's beautiful, because sometimes you can be unfamiliar, but it doesn't mean you're incapable, right? So yet is a beautiful way to just be like, yeah, just hasn't happened. It's a question of time, right? Not ability.
Oh, you're dropping some gems today,
Yeah,
Ray.
you're dropping
You
some
do.
gems. I love that. I'm gonna, yeah, it's yet.
It. And yeah, unfamiliar, it's not about our capability. We all have an incredible brain that AI will never replace, the beautiful
Yes.
creativity of the human brain. And if things feel messy for you right now, it's part of creativity, it's part of the process of growth and who you're becoming. So thank you for being here. We've really enjoyed just dialoguing around this. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Pop them in the comments. We just really invite your thoughts, your ideas, anything that stood out. We'd love to hear. We'd love to hear from you. Stay in touch. I'll make sure that I put Ray's details in here. Is there any final words you have, Ray?
I just want to thank you. It's like just that one word that you were telling me about, yet it's incredible. So aside from all of the questions that you asked, and the way that you reframed language, I feel like there's so much here that people can take away in their own practice. So I'm really thankful that we got to have this conversation, and and for people to see that they can always ask, right? Like, what else can this mean? And to create just new possibilities as they're going through hard times. So how wonderful to learn from you and to be here with you today. And thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ray. I feel the same. I feel so honored to know you and to get to glean from your years of wisdom and experience. And I love that you're just so real, and really enjoy talking to you. And I just feel honored. So thank you, listeners, viewers. Thank you, Ray. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Right. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.